muito obrigada por esse tempo. Foram 3 meses de muita aprendizagem, onde a gente pôde mesmo receber o melhor do Senhor. Eu oro por esse último dia, por esse último momento agora, que o Senhor direcione a Lisa mesmo em todo o tempo, em tudo que ela precisa falar, que ela esteja sensível a você, Espírito Santo, e que o nosso coração e a nossa mente esteja atento para aquilo que a gente precisa relembrar, para aquilo que a gente precisa celebrar e para aquilo que a gente precisa caminhar diante de tudo que a gente ouviu nesses últimos meses. Em nome de Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. So, what do you think? Debrief is important. How is it part of our learning process? What is the purpose of debrief, and how does it help our learning process? What do you think? You can put your name in the chat and I'll call on you. Miriam, if you're not translating, I can't hear you. What do you think? When you debrief your school, what are you hoping will happen? How does it help your students? What do you think? Jimmy, how about you? What do you think? What is one of the purposes or benefits of doing a debrief at the end of a course?
I think the idea is the people feel that it's a finish the school, and the idea for me is the people can feel satisfaction, yeah, and look it back and think I can to finish this work. Yeah, and also I think the idea is the relationship with the staff and student is.
That's great. Let's see, Luisa, do you know how to braid your hair? Do you know how to make a braid out of your hair? Can you show us really quick how would you braid your hair? Can you show us?
No.
No, not Jimmy. How about Luisa? Or your esposa? Okay. Yeah. Okay, mine is too short to be very effective. Yeah. Show us how you braid your hair.
Just a minute. A internet da Cláudia.
Tomo 3 hileras de mi pelo.
Okay.
Y lo entrelazo.
Good.
Una con la otra.
Okay, now stop. Just stop. Okay, now no. Oh, sorry. Oh well. When you saw her, I asked her to stop. What would happen if she just stopped there?
Só um minutinho, Lisa. Eu vou traduzir para português aqui, que a internet da Cláudia caiu. Então, só para ficar mais tranquilo, a Miriam continua no canal e eu traduzo aqui. Claudia's internet went off, so I will translate into Portuguese in the main room until Daniel come. Okay? So, let's go.
Oh, okay. So, when I asked Luisa to braid her hair,
então,
she began.
Quando eu falei para ela trançar o cabelo dela, ela começou.
And I asked her to stop before she was able to tie it off. Now, what would happen if she just went about with her hair? She started to braid and didn't finish. What would happen?
Que teria acontecido?
what would happen if you didn't finish?
Just a minute, Lisa. Danielle is here, Claudia is back. I will just set the translation again. Just a minute.
We are so grateful for Zoom. So, well, we have to wait a little bit. That's okay. It's
Sorry.
still worth it. No.
Okay, let's go.
Okay. So I asked Luisa to begin to braid her hair, and then I asked her to stop. Now, if that was all she did, what would happen to her hair after a few minutes? What would happen, Luisa, if that's all you did in the morning was just braid your hair a little bit and that was all?
Just
By
a
the
minute,
end of
Lisa. Something went wrong.
Okay, we're going to skip this part and we'll just go on.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Let me know when you're ready.
Okay. Okay, let's go. It's on now.
Okay. What I was trying to bring out was if we start something and we
O
don't,
que eu estava tentando falar é que quando você começa a fazer uma coisa,
if we don't finish
se a
it
gente
well,
não termina bem,
it doesn't last as long. So for her to start braiding her hair and she does not tie it off at the end, the braid will come undone, won't it? And so to finish our time of learning together, we take time to reflect, we take time to evaluate, and we take time to plan for the future. And that helps to finish our learning. It helps it to stay with us. So perhaps that is a picture of what a debrief can do. Is that the word that you use? What word do you guys use for that final time to evaluate and reflect with your students, to help them think about what they've learned and how they're going to apply it? What do you guys, what word do you use? Can someone tell me what word you would use? Someone who's not translating? Claudia?
Eu acredito pensando nas escolas que trabalhei, o debriefing mesmo, a palavra debriefing, é esse feedback, é também olhar para tudo que a gente aprendeu, mas também
That's
olhar...
the word? Okay.
É isso.
Okay. So that's a helpful word. We all know what that word means. I didn't know if there was a different term that you used in different countries.
Estaba tratando de ver si había algunos términos que usaran para retroalimentación, pero para todos ese tema.
We'll think about what we're doing. So I want each of you to think about what are the main topics, the main ideas that we have discussed in our sessions together. I'm going to give you 2 minutes.
Just a minute, Lisa, sorry, but Danielle, your translation is not working. It's cutting off all the time. So Miriam, I'm going to put you in Spanish again. So because I think it's the internet connection in his place. So let's just organize, okay? Sorry, guys.
Sorry.
Great. Thanks for all your hard work
Ok.
with the technology and the
¿El
translation.
español pueden oírme? ¿Puede oírme?
Não ainda,
Ok.
só um minutinho. Ok, let's try.
Ahora sí. ¿Puede oírme, Luisa?
I want each of you by yourselves to
Cada
think
de
about
vocês, sozinho, pense
at least 3
pelo menos 3
ideas
das principais ideias que nós discutimos nesse tempo que nós tivemos juntos, nessas últimas semanas.
7 or 8 may
Talvez você venha pensar em 7, 8 diferentes tópicos e ideias, tudo bem? Mas, no mínimo, 3 ideias. 3 ideias principais que a gente discutiu nesse tempo.
think back
Então, pensa no que nós fizemos,
from the beginning.
sobre o que nós falamos desde o início.
So I'll give you 2 minutes.
Eu vou dar 2 minutos a vocês
Together we're going to make a big list of the
e
topics.
juntos nós vamos fazer uma grande lista com os temas, os tópicos que a gente discutiu, ok?
And then I'll
Então,
start
2 minutos e depois eu vou começar a perguntar a vocês sobre as ideias de vocês.
Okay, almost time.
Então, tá quase na hora.
Okay. Now
Ok,
I am going to
agora eu
you
vou pedir
each
a
call
vocês,
your name.
eu vou chamar o nome de cada um de vocês, vou pedir para você compartilhar uma das ideias que está na sua mente e a gente vai de um para o outro, todo mundo vai falar.
Okay. Luisa, what's one topic that we have discussed?
El tema de las inteligencias, de las diferentes inteligencias
Frida,
de las personas.
Ah, excellent. Jimmy, what's one topic you can think of?
Estaba pensando en la... Luisa ya lo dijo.
Laura's dog is barking. Perhaps they could mute the background.
Yeah, evaluation.
Okay. Lots of topics about evaluation, huh? Good. Miley, how about you? And Jose, I'm going to call on you next.
As esferas da sociedade.
Yes, spheres of society. Excellent. Good. Jose, you, and then Lais, I'm going to call on you next. Let's see. Lais, how about you? We'll come back around to Jose, see if he can come on later.
avaliação
Para mim também foi muito,
Good.
foi muito chave. Acho que você lembra. I'm quiet.
Yes.
Foi
Yeah.
muito bom.
Well, so we talked about a lot of different parts of assessment. So is there a particular part of assessment that you remember? I'm guessing that it was thinking about and confronting the pain of assessment in the past. That was a big part, wasn't it? Do you remember I beat the flowers? Perhaps I don't want you to remember that part. Yeah. Claudia, how about you? What's an idea that you remember? Learning styles. Okay, good. Daniel.
You hear me?
Uh-huh.
Outcomes, no, sorry, knowledge, skills, and attitude.
That's right. Everybody do it together. Knowledge, skills, and attitude. Excellent. Good. We talked about the spheres. Talked about the flowers, we beat the flowers assessment. Tulio, how about you? What's the main idea you remember? I see things are coming up in the chat. Okay. What is disculpa gente? Discipling?
He's saying, I'm sorry, people.
Oh, okay. No worries. Thanks for showing up, Francismilda. Good. So different ones. I can see I call on people and they aren't able to connect. Maybe we could put it in chat. A few more. Everybody put in one more idea that you remember that stood out to you. So if you could all type in one more idea you were thinking of. Or tell you what, type in 2 or 3 that you were thinking of. I'm sure you all thought of many of them. Plan, do, review. Yep. So good. Yes, rubrics, having those clear expectations. Great. Yes, redeeming evaluation. No more shame and fear, and no more it's so vague that it isn't a helpful thing. Yes. Oh, good. Registration. Evaluation tools. Thinking about creative, practical ways to evaluate. That's right. Good. Good evening, Juliana and Gabriela. Glad you're here. Yes, the DNA of Hukum. What it means to be a leader. Yes. Remember in the beginning, we talked a lot about what is the U of N? What are those things that are unique to us? How does that shape our approach to education? Yeah. Our T class, that's right. We used that for quite a lot of things, didn't we? About having clear outcomes, having good rubrics, doing assessment well. Good. Anything else? Okay, good job. So part of what we want to do and to debrief ourselves is to think back and say, what have we learned? What have we discussed? And so just creating a little bit of a timeline for ourselves. Where did we start? How did those ideas develop over time? And I went back through our notes and I made a short list of the main topics. And I've just sent those to you in the WhatsApp in Portuguese and Spanish. And it reflects all the things that you shared. We remembered the same main topics. So we want to think about that's what we learned. What did those things mean to us? What was the meaning of the topic, and what did you take away from those topics? So we're going to have some time in our small groups, because that's the place where we have more opportunity to really talk, really share our thoughts. I hope that you all got the message and you were able to come to class with some colors and some papers. Okay, if you didn't, go find those, because we're going to use drawing tonight to bring out and make a picture of our understanding. And we're going to add to that picture through the evening. So you will want to be able to do it. So we're going to go into our language-based small groups, so it's easy to share freely from the heart. And to start with, in your small group, I want you to choose 3 of the areas. Well, maybe as you're drawing your pictures, look at the list that I sent, the list that we talked about together just now of our main ideas. And I want you to somehow make a visual picture that has most of those ideas in it. It could be the picture of scenery, it could be a picture of something. It could be a different symbol for each of the main ideas. It could be taking key words and making those into a pattern, whatever you'd like. But I'd like you to have some representation, picture of at least 4 or 5 of those main ideas. And as you're drawing them, you can be talking about them with your small group. And I want each of you to talk about 2 of them that had the deepest learning for you. What were those 2 areas that really meant a lot to you? And how are you going to apply those as a leader in the future? So you're going to first draw a picture, a general representation of 4 or 5 of the main ideas in our training. That's the first thing. You can do that while you talk with each other about those things. And when you have completed that picture, then I want you to talk about 2 of them that were the most important to you, and how you particularly plan to apply those 2 areas to your own leadership in the future. Does that make sense? I can send the instructions in the WhatsApp group. Is it okay?
So Lisa, just let me check with you. Right now we have 2 groups in Spanish, one with 3 people and the other one with 4 people. And we have just one group in Portuguese, because Fran and Juliana, they were here and
Sure.
the internet cut off. So my question is, can I do pairs, or so if Juliana and Fran come back, I just add them for different groups? Or do you prefer I start with 4 in one room and we become 5 if they come back?
Let's see. I think maybe 4 is good. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's going to be 20 minutes, right?
Yeah, it gives you some time to think about it.
Okay, so I will start. Let's see you guys. See you soon.
We will send the instructions. Okay, well, I hope that we have worked together long enough that you were willing to draw pictures at my invitation and found some benefit to using the visual to help yourselves to think and to discuss these topics. I know we've talked about using the different learning styles, so I think perhaps you were willing to do it, even though sometimes it feels what a silly thing to do, draw with a crayon. But it does bring out new learning, doesn't it? So I'd like to hear a couple of the things that each group, maybe if you could report on one or two of the topics that you felt as a group were so important, and a particular way that you feel to apply it to yourselves in the future. So hopefully each person in the group shared two areas that were important for them and specific ways they're going to apply it. So from each group, I would just like to hear a quick report on one or two of those areas, perhaps where several people had the same thoughts. Does that make sense? Is that clear? Could I hear from yes, Luisa?
Ok. Yo creo que esta es mi forma de aprender, así que lo disfruté mucho. Este es el pimentón cuando hicimos los diferentes condimentos y que todos se tenían que mezclar. Ese es el aprendizaje lineal, en espiral. ¿Cómo son las enseñanzas?
I am not hearing anything in English, which is too bad, but I am enjoying the pictures.
I think Miriam is translating on the channel. Just go to the Spanish channel, Lisa, please.
Okay. Great. And what's one way that you hope to apply those, plan to apply those? Luisa, what are you thinking about?
Aplicar. Pues estaba en el futuro. Estábamos hablando, sí, para aplicar en este tiempo. Lo del conocimiento, la habilidad y la actitud, que era algo no claro, que ahora lo tenemos más claro para poderlo aplicar en los estudiantes y en nosotros mismos.
Ajá, ajá. Siempre nosotros mismos el primero.
Sí.
Ok, excelente, gracias. Okay, great. How about someone else?
Just one person for group or no matter?
Yeah, maybe one person per group and maybe share a couple of the things that came up. Go ahead, Daniel. How about your group?
Oh no, mine was Luisa's.
Oh, okay. One of the other groups then. How about one of the Portuguese speaking group?
Eu posso falar. Eu posso seguir falando? Alguém vai traduzir para ela? Só para eu saber. Eu posso seguir.
She's asking what?
Eu acho que uma coisa que se repetiu no nosso grupo foi sobre os estilos de aprendizagem a parte também das esferas da sociedade foi algo que se repetiu, e uma coisa que acho que todas nós falamos sobre como aplicar isso, primeiro, claro, né, na nossa vida e dentro da nossa comunidade, mas para que isso apareça nas escolas, né? Como fazer, tornar isso mais presente nas escolas. Eu acho que foi a coisa que ficou meio que parecido.
So good. So good. Yeah. Making that refocus on our purpose, and then to start to think about how we can use so many different teaching strategies, learning strategies to really make it come alive. And then as the other group brought out, Luisa brought out, how to take that vision and those goals and make them so practical, the understanding, the doing, and the attitudes. So good, you guys. Yeah, Jimmy.
Sí. Nosotros hablamos con mi esposa acerca de, bueno, yo lo hice acerca de el líder. Este es como una especie de cerebro. Y, no, mentiras, este es el T. Acerca del T, y hablábamos acerca de siempre como estar dispuestos a aprender como un cerebro. Y estar dispuestos a ver cosas nuevas. Y también hablamos acerca del líder, hablábamos del líder, y pensaba que el líder debe estar fundamentado en la palabra, en la Biblia.
Ajá.
Y también debe tener una relación profunda con el Espíritu Santo para poder liderar a otros. Y mi esposa hizo otros.
Pues son prácticamente los mismos. Aquí está la universidad, estas las diferentes formas de aprendizaje. Todos somos iguales, pero diferentes al tiempo. Esta es la flor, la forma de evaluar, ¿no? Podemos destruir o hacer florecer a alguien. O la forma en que la universidad evalúa, habilidad, actitud, y cómo se tejen las tres y forman una sola. Esta es la escuela, y cómo, en qué esfera queremos orientarla. Esta me llamó mucho la atención porque sí, con el tiempo uno puede perder el inicio de lo que Dios dijo. Y es la importancia de regresar siempre al original. Eso me llama la atención.
Muy rico, gracias. Ok. ¿Es todos los grupos? Great, good, so rich, you guys. So many things we've talked about. What is the purpose of the U of N? It's to equip people to impact the spheres. How does each course take its place? What are those goals? How do we break those down into things that we understand, and skills that we develop, and heart attitudes? And then how do we use all of our University of Nations learning tools? How do we use those? How do we use learning styles in the classroom? And then I think so much of what we talked about was having clear expectations so that we are able to evaluate and assess how are the students doing with their learning. Let's be clear about it so that our interaction is meaningful and helps them learn. How do we do it so we continue to help them grow? So the way that we do it is encouraging, but it's clear. We don't just say, oh, yes, you're doing well, or oh, no, you're bad. but how do we do this? How do we create and communicate clear rubrics? And how do we discuss these things so there's no shame and no fear and no hurt, but there's clarity and encouragement and motivation? So I think you have identified so many of those core topics so well, and hope we are starting to pull these things together. Now I want to ask you to reflect on a different part of our learning. We have been thinking, what are the topics that we discussed and the different ways that we discussed them, with making the tea and looking at the spheres and the flowers, things like that. So that raises the question, how have we learned? What are some of the things you've noticed about the way that we have done the training, the way that you have been learning? What have you noticed? What have you learned from that? I'd like you to think about what are some things that we have done well in the way that we have done this training. What are things that we've done that have really helped you to learn? And then I'd like you to think about another important question for evaluation is, what is something that we could do differently that would help your learning even more? So we don't want to just say, oh, what was bad? That's easy. We always think, oh, I should have done this. I should have done better. But that's not what we see in the scriptures, do we? Assessment is about encouragement, identifying strength and honoring that encouragement, and reflecting honestly, saying, what do I see in the mirror that I'm going to fix because I see it now? So I'd like you to, we're going to go back into your small groups. And I'd like you to think about, what have you noticed about how we have done the training? What are two things that you have learned from and said, wow, that you did that well. I want to use that same I want to learn from the process of this training, the methods that you've seen us use. And you can learn from something that you think could have been done differently, something you would like to do differently to make your teaching and learning methods even more effective. So let's give a few examples before we go into our small groups again. What is something that you've noticed about how we have done the training? One thing you probably won't forget is the flowers and the rolling pin. What was my teaching method that had such an impact on you that you remember it? What do you notice about the method of having those flowers and talking about those flowers and then using the rolling pin on those flowers? What do you learn about the teaching or the learning method in that demonstration? What did you notice? Let's see. What did you notice, Jose? Well, I don't know if Jose can connect with us. What did you notice, Claudia?
Eu vou tirar a Cláudia do canal só um minutinho. Miriam, não, oh meu Deus. Vamos lá, eu traduzo. Cláudia, fala em inglês, eu traduzo em português. Deixa eu só tirar aqui. Vamos lá, pode falar.
Okay. I think it was impactful because you're talking about the flowers, how they are from your garden.
Fue un impacto porque usted dijo que las flores eran de tu propio jardín.
Foi muito
And they were so
importante,
beautiful.
porque vai ter que ser tudo por aqui, tá, gente? Então, se a Miriam falar devagar em espanhol, o pessoal de português consegue entender? Sim? Então tá jóia. Então vai lá, vai só inglês e espanhol.
And you told us to contemplate them and see what we could see, why we would prefer one or another. So we really had time to kind of attach to the flowers.
Porque usted habló de que las flores eran de tu propio jardín y nosotros pudimos sentir la emoción de usted tomar algo que era tuyo y después destruir, y esto fue muy impactante para nosotros.
So yeah, and then when you destroyed us, really was crashing, like, oh my gosh, why did she do that? It's so beautiful, and now she destroyed everything. So it was shocking.
Destruirse las flores que eran tan lindas fue un shock para nosotros.
So it was emotionally, I was emotionally impacted. So that's why I think was so remarkable.
Fue algo
and
muy
it made sense
emotivo,
when you brought them in.
emocional. Y después cuando usted habló de lo que quería decir con esto, fue muy impactante.
Good. So the teaching strategy that allowed this truth to have a deep impact was using real objects that you could see and maybe imagine that if we were together, we would have real flowers. It gave you the opportunity to think and speak out for yourself. It gave you something to look at and reflect on and see. And then my actions, you could see it, you could hear it. It was a demonstration that was very real to you, very practical. It impacted your senses. It wasn't me just talking about, well, if I had flowers and if I crushed them, what would that mean to you? That would have been a very different learning experience if I had just talked about it. But when you could see it and hear it and say it for yourself, then, as Claudia mentioned, you started to care, you started to invest in that moment. And that helped there to be an emotional deepening. You were able to go deeper and connect to that topic. So that the point of the discussion was important, but the teaching method, you don't always have to have flowers and crush them. You can think, how can I create a teaching demonstration or a participation activity that involves using, people can touch things, smell things, see things, discuss things. I can do something that involves others. So that's an example of a teaching method that you can say that was effective. I won't forget that. And so asking, why was that effective? How can you learn from what made that effective? And how can you use that to create other learning activities and demonstrations for whatever topic you are trying to discuss? So that was one example. Perhaps you can think of other examples that helped you to say, oh, I remember that. I understood that more deeply. So when I hold this up in front of the camera, you think, oh, I remember that. That is all about the spheres, and each sphere of society shows us a different part of who God is. Okay, why do you remember that? Because you had something to see. So perhaps one of the things that you might take away from this course is there was a very effective use of visuals, of things that I could see that helped me to understand and have an impact, remember. So that might be an example as you go to your small groups. What are some things you learned about how we did the training? Was it helpful to make time for discussion groups? Was it helpful to ask you to bring objects that you could touch and use in your own home? Draw with your own crayons, that kind of thing. So I want you to think about how we did the training and what was effective for you. What did we do well that you want to use as you lead your own courses? And there may have been, I'm sure that there was at least one thing that you thought, that wasn't very well done. I've learned from it, and I'd like to do this differently and better. So I'd like you, because both things are important to evaluate. It's important to think, what did we do well? And it's important to go, what could we have done differently? What would I like to do differently next time? So in your small groups now, I want you to discuss those, and I want you to make a list, because I'd like to learn from that. That's my assessment. What did you learn that we did well? What can we learn about things we didn't do as well that we could do differently next time? So discuss it, please. Have somebody make a list, and then add that to your own drawing. What are 2 things you want to do in your own training leadership because of how we did the training? Does that make sense?
How long, Lisa?
Let's do 10 minutes. We're running a little short on time. 10 minutes. Okay?
Okay.
Here come the instructions.
Okay, so let's go.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, it's hot.
Examples, the team, the ball, the UFN, like a baseball that gave we saw at the beginning. All those things were really important and really stuck in our minds, and we need to redeem. That's the plan: redeem education, not just make it easy, but redeeming so people can really get what God wants to give them in the schools. So we all agree that all your examples, sketch and visuals were the key part.
Okay, good. Okay, so thinking of really meaningful visuals that you can build your teaching around. Yeah, I find that very important. Good, excellent. Okay, another group.
Uma das coisas que meu grupo falou foi sobre atividades práticas, né? Quando nos levaram a decorar um versículo bíblico e pediram para a maneira mais fácil que fosse para nós decorarmos. Alguns cantaram, fizeram uma música, outros repetiram várias vezes, e isso mostrou quanto nós estávamos abertos para aprender de maneira diferente, né? De acordo com cada um, de acordo com a sua forma de aprendizagem.
Excellent. Yeah. Using, getting each learner involved somehow in their own activity, using their own body and using their own mouth is just such an important part of increasing the understanding and the impact, isn't it? It's great. Good. Another group.
Nosotros hablamos acerca de el té y las maneras como debemos también siempre evaluar lo que estamos enseñando. Entonces fue muy, muy interesante y pienso que eso es algo que quiero también aplicar en cuanto a el dinamismo y tener maneras diferentes de cómo ilustrar lo que estamos haciendo. En especial, también ahora con el Zoom u otras plataformas, para ser dinámicos y creativos, porque fue muy valioso para mí el té, muy dinámico y como haciéndome pensar, y recuerdo mucho también a Melinda como teniendo ilustraciones, entonces creo que fue muy bueno.
Qué cosa, muy poderoso. I think the other area that I noticed that you responded to quite a lot was having the little role plays and the skits. And that seemed to really add a lot of understanding and impact for you. I noticed whenever we did that, so much understanding came out and so much energy around what you were learning from watching these role plays. So perhaps that didn't come up in the discussion, but if you remember, I think that was also a big part for you guys. Does that seem true? Yeah. So yeah, it's just something else to remember, that sometimes the most effective way is to demonstrate it by doing role play, what it looks like when you do it well, what it looks like when you don't do it well, and giving people a chance to reflect on that, giving them a chance to do the role play themselves, do it poorly, do some teaching and discussion, and then say, now, how would you apply that? Take the same role play and do it again yourselves. That can be very, very helpful to practice a little bit. What have I just learned? How does it feel if I do it and I say it? So let's take your 10-minute break, and then we'll come back and we'll keep taking ourselves through a debrief of what we learned and what we're going to do with it. So we'll see you in 10 minutes. Welcome back, everyone.
I think they're coming.
Great. Hey, when
now is the right time. Sorry.
Yeah, I had to go get something to eat. I know I was hungry. Hope everybody had a chance to grab something to eat or drink. Okay. Welcome back. There's our friend Tulio. Glad he is with us. Okay, friends. Well, another part of debrief is the personal application. And so we have thought about what are the ideas that we've covered, what was some of the meaning and application for us as leaders, what are some of the things we learned from the teaching process that you can use as you train others. And so starting with the big ideas, getting down to the more practical, now we're coming down to the more personal and saying, what have you learned for you? What have you learned that has personal application? How would you like to bring what you've learned into your personal life? Not only your leadership role as a school leader, but into your personal life. So we're not going to go into small groups, but we're going to take about 5 minutes. And I want you to think about that, and I want you to add it to your picture. I want you to come away with tonight a picture of the main ideas, some of the application you want to make as a leader, some of the main things you learned about teaching method and your application, and now this personal piece for you. How do you want to apply this to your personal life? So think about that, at least one, maybe 2 areas, and as a way of making a record of that, add that to your picture. And you don't have to share this with anyone. We won't make that a topic of small group discussion, but that's for you. That's for your takeaway for your personal life. Okay, are there any questions about that? I can put it in the chat here, and we'll just take these first 5 minutes, and we'll just, I don't know, can we play some music? Do we know how to do that?
Yes,
I'm not sure if I do. Can you? Oh, that would be brilliant.
Yeah, I'm going to find the music and I'm going to put the clock also. Just a minute.
Okay, great. And I'll put the instructions in the chat in case you want to be sure of what we're talking about.
Conceiving Christ the Son, Jesus our Savior. I believe in God our Father, I believe in Christ the Son, I believe in the Holy Spirit, our God is three in one. In the resurrection, that we will rise again. For I believe in the name of Jesus. Lord, do you believe in the name tonight? Thank you, Jesus. I'm judging and defending. I'm judging and defending. Suffered and crucified. Forgiveness is in you. Jesus Christ is Lord. I believe in God our Father. I believe in the resurrection, that we will rise again. For I believe in the name of Jesus. I believe in God our Father. I believe in Christ the Son. I believe in the Holy Spirit. Our God is three in one. I believe in the resurrection, that we will rise again. In the name of Jesus.
Sorry, I closed the wrong tab.
Well, it's probably good that I was on mute so that you didn't have to hear me sing. That's probably a good thing. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we have looked at the ideas and the application to your own leadership and to your own life, the ideas and the methods. Now, the next question is, how can you give away what you've learned to others? What are some practical steps that you change your own leadership? And now that you think, how could other people, how could you pass on what you've learned so that other people can lead their courses differently? Some of you have a job, and it's your job to train others. Some of you might not have a formal role where you are asked to train others. But each of us, we can think about that question: how do I benefit from this training in my own leadership? And how can I share what I have learned with others? That's part of being in YWAM, isn't it? Is we're always thinking about multiplication. We're always thinking about serving and giving and sharing. And it is part of our learning process. The best way to learn something is turn around and teach someone else. So I'm sure that as you, I forget which of the sisters used the, maybe it's Gabriella, went and used the illustration with the flowers and the rolling pin, that I'm sure brought out even more as she prepared to lead it and helped other people to think about the meaning of it. I'm sure it brought so much more understanding and revelation to her life as well. I know it happens to me every time I teach something, even if I've taught it many times, the learning goes deeper for me. I'm sure you've already found that as you've taught in schools, as you've led schools. So we're familiar with the benefit to us as we give away. And it's also part of our calling, part of who we are as YWAM, is we always think, oh, here's something good. How do I share it? How do I multiply something that I see is of value? So that's going to be our next topic for our small group. This will be our final small group for the evening. And we wanted to, while we were together, think about this question and talk it over with each other. Because as you've already found, others in your small group have all kinds of good ideas that you think, oh, I could do that. I never thought about that. And so rather than say, think about this later on your own, say, no, let's talk about it now. Let's think about what could you do in the relationships and the role that you have. How could you share some of this with other people? Perhaps you'd like to start something new and say, well, I'd like to offer to take a role. I'd like to offer to serve my base, or I'd like to offer to work with some of my staff and train them so they could start thinking about leading other schools. So it might be something you already do and you'd like to think about how you can share what you've learned, or you might think of something you'd like to start and do for the first time as a way to share some of what you've learned. So we're going to take 10 minutes. 10 minutes isn't a long time. It's not meant to answer the question fully, but it helps us begin to think for ourselves and to benefit from hearing what others have to share. So let's, for our final small group discussion, and then we'll come back and do a little more processing together as a whole group. Okay. Are there any questions before you go into your small groups? About the training with the small group leaders, I think it was Lais mentioned a question that she had of the idea that you continue to do staff training throughout a school, and wondered if I could comment on that a little bit. And so now might be a good time to think about that. What I do with staff training in a school is I think, what are the things that my staff need to know and be able to do and have in their hearts before we start the school? What is needed to start the school well? To have everything prepared for the students to begin our learning process together, hospitality and welcome and all of that. And then I think to myself, what are the things that they will be ready to learn and need to learn as the school progresses? So perhaps I don't do a lot on assessment in staff training before the school starts. They don't need to know that the first 2 weeks of school. But thinking after the first couple of weeks, then we need to start really thinking about, how are the students learning? How are we going to evaluate that? They're going to get their first assignments. How do we give feedback on those things? So I try to think about, what point are we in the discipleship process of our students? And then I train the staff the week before that. So I don't train them about outreach before the school starts. I wait until we're about a third of the way through the school. Okay, it's time to start thinking about preparation for outreach. So we do preparation for outreach in our staff training. So I do staff training once a week, and it's time to debrief. It's time to take care of the staff. How are you doing? And it's time to bring little bits of training along the way as they need it. Too much training in the beginning, there's just so much to absorb. And it's hard to keep learning. It's hard to put it all into practice. So I try to sequence what needs to be learned at what point in the school. And I try to provide that training just as they need it for what is happening in the school, in the discipleship process. So I don't know if that helps as you're thinking about, how could I take what I've learned and share it with others? One possibility would be offering, setting up some kind of ongoing staff training for people that you work with. We can do training events like this, and we can start thinking about the little bits along the way. That's part of the model of what we have done with you. We didn't just do 5 days of intensive. we started with an intensive, which helps us to concentrate and get a lot in a short period of time. But then we spaced it out over time. So there was a chance to think about and practice one small part and then come back for the next small part. And we sequenced that learning so that you were building skills and understanding as we went. So that might be part of how you think about what would I like to do to give this away to others. So perhaps that was helpful to add to your thinking about it. So let's go and spend 10 minutes in your small groups and again, add to your picture. What are you thinking about? How you would like to be able to give this away to others? Talk about it and add it to your drawing. Okay. Oh, Carlina, are you going to take this final question or you want me to?
No, you can just take it.
Okay. Okay. Great. Okay, coming down the home stretch. Okay, so one piece of feedback from each group.
Entonces,
Ah,
cada
aí foi.
grupo dará
Uma pessoa dando feedback de cada grupo.
Yes, I know you needed more time, and that is going to be part of my next question is, now what? So let's just hear, what were you thinking about you and how you could give it away? What was one idea from each group? Hi, Karam, it's nice to see your face, not just your name.
We in my group we were talking about well, one thing that is hard is for those that do not speak English, they cannot go back to the videos in the classroom because the videos are only in English. So they won't be able to review the videos because they will need to find a translator for that. So an idea would be for maybe for next time, even though it is a lot of work, that maybe having someone that take notes, like official notes, really good notes in Spanish or in Portuguese, so we can access to those notes. And then when we are preparing for teaching this in the future, we have that available.
Great.
That would be great. And we all share that in our bases, we can do a certain kind of seminar for giving them all these tools that we have receiving, this revelation, and all the explanation about evaluation, assessments, and outcomes. So we can do that in our bases.
Great. Ah, wonderful. Great. Good. And remember, we have the Google Classroom, and that's where we have posted the resources that go with each session. And I love your idea of comprehensive notes. And usually when I'm a participant in a seminar, I take notes. And so I didn't this time, which I'm sorry that I didn't. I wish I had thought to. So that is a good thing for next time. But do remember that the Google Classroom has resources posted. That's why we started it. So great feedback. Good. Another group.
No nosso grupo, a gente compartilhou mais a praticidade mesmo, do que já estamos fazendo. Cláudia já dando treinamento para obreiros, né, que já é uma coisa já contínua também. Aqui em Contagem nós temos já servido a nossa comunidade com treinamento da universidade, treinamento para as escolas, uma escola servindo a outra. Então, tem sido esse
Great.
movimento simultâneo, né? A gente tentando realmente modular e não deixar para depois, mas vamos já fazer agora, né?
So good.
E também, no âmbito assim, pessoal, como Karen compartilhou, pensando nas esferas, né, da sociedade, aquilo que aquilo me fugiu a palavra, mas ela ser mais ter mais eficiência, acho que no compartilhar, sendo com pessoas da missão e fora da missão, mas trazendo as esferas da sociedade.
Yeah, I personally have been teaching on that for years, and it is so challenging and so life-giving, isn't it? It's like, this is what we've been designed for, and something in us just rises when we grasp that is what God's intentions are. So I'm thrilled to hear that you feel to take that up as a particular point of speaking to others. So rich. Good. Okay, final group.
Bueno, nosotros con José y mi esposa hablamos acerca del tema y José estaba hablando acerca de que él trabaja en consejería y en cuidado pastoral. Entonces él quisiera como enfocar lo que recibió en este tiempo en esta área de cuidado pastoral al misionero. Entonces, pues nos pareció muy interesante y muy apropiado también. Y en nuestro caso también, en mi caso quisiera también conectar mucho más todavía con las escuelas, otras escuelas de mi base y preguntar cómo podemos servir, cómo podemos apoyar y tratar de multiplicar.
Yes. Well, that goes right into our final question that we wanted to take just a few minutes to talk about together. And that is the question about how could we continue together? How can we move forward together? How could we continue in some way to have this training network remain active? How could it serve across South America in the future? So just thinking about that and thinking, what are we just going to say, bye-bye, see you later? Do we want to think about some ways that we could continue to work together? So that's a big question. Maybe that's Daniel said we need 40 more minutes to discuss it. It is a big question. So just thought to put some possibilities out there. Sounds like Jimmy and his wife were already thinking a little bit about that. And we want to discuss it as a group and possibilities. And then you can think about for yourself, what would you like to do? And that'll be something you can take some time and think about and get your thoughts to Carlina personally later when you've had a chance to think about it a little bit. So for now, this is just an open discussion amongst us. Have you thought about it at all? Does anything come to mind? What would you suggest? What would you like to see happen? We're finishing this training event, but we have formed a network of relationships around training. What would you like to see happen?
So we can share now, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, at the beginning of the course, it was quite clear that we were going to take this training into other and multiply it into other places in the region, at least in Latin America. So I think that it would be great if we can gather together all our gifts and start providing seminars in specific topics. So maybe some of us are more focused on assessments, or some of us are more focused on heart of the UFN, or those very, very important readings or papers that you need to take in account when you are leading a school. So how can we gather these small circles of people, we that have been taking the course, you that are leading the course, and provide this training for the basis in Latin America? I think that if we can gather this group, and if we need to receive further training for this, but I think that the focus and the vision is to to increase the scope of the impact of the University of the Nations through learning these very valuable principles and truths about the schools. So that's my opinion.
Wow, sounds amazing.
Yo también quisiera, como estaba diciendo Daniel antes, tal vez que todo este material estuviera un poco más organizado, los videos, y digamos, organizado los videos, digamos, como que sepas dónde están, qué clases en cada lugar, y también que esté todo en nuestro caso, en español, y poder reproducir eso un poquitito más. De hecho, nosotros ya estamos tratando de hacerlo con nuestra escuela en este tiempo, hablando preguntando por qué hacemos lo que hacemos, pero sería interesante y bueno poder tener ese material como un poquito más claro y condensado, los apuntes, de tal manera que se puede como retroalimentar varias veces. Y sería bueno si podemos seguir como un poquitito aprendiendo más este material. Y yo creo que una vez no es suficiente, se necesita entender varias veces. Y bueno, tal vez podemos invitar a varios como Liz o otros para enseñar también en la escuela alguna vez. Sería muy bueno.
Great. I think I got most of what Jimmy was saying. Could somebody summarize for me in English so I make sure I get what he's saying?
He was saying that it would be good if we could get all the videos organized and compiled together.
Okay.
And because all of them are on YouTube, but it's sometimes hard to locate which class is which because of the titles of the videos, and they are in the middle of several other videos in the YouTube channel. So we could just be easier to get access to that and all information, because just pass through this once is not enough, because we need to think about this and reason again. So mostly was that.
Okay.
Just to clarify, I think when you go to the channel, you are going to have the playlists. So there it's organized by the training. So you're going to have session 1, session 2. It's not everything mixed. So you need to go and to look for the playlist. So we have South American training. So it's there. And we are going to upload the audios in Spanish and Portuguese. The subtitles, it's a work team effort because Daniel and myself and Adriano and Miriam, we cannot do this. But we wanted to encourage you, Jimmy, to find people that can work on the subtitles. It's more than welcome because it's the way that we made a choice in the beginning that was we need to do trilingual, Portuguese and Spanish and English. So this is why we don't have the translation side by side. So we choose this back ago. So right now we are going to upload the audios, but it's organized in the channel. You just need to look for the playlist. So we're going to see session 1, session 2, session 3. It's there. But if you just look in the main room, everything is mixed. But you have the playlist there. And also on Google Doc, you can find there in each one of the sessions the link that's connected.
Oh, good. Great.
Okay, thank you.
Great. It's a great question, Jimmy. Preguntas muy importantes.
I think if I remember, in the beginning of those meetings, I think it was Brad that mentioned that it was the first step to getting connected and establish relationships.
Yes.
And I remember that I think it was him, mentioned that as we go through, we are going to see areas in the U event that we can identify with. And we can start praying and thinking about have Spanish speakers and Portuguese speakers people working in the U event that can help people in South America or Latin America. And I think maybe, I don't know if it's going to happen through different meetings or keep trainings like this for ourselves or for other people interested. But I think this is something important to happen. That I remember that, like, for me, especially the day you, Lisa, you told about difference about knowledge, skills, and in character. It was so mind-blowing. And I imagine that there are many school leaders that have the same question in their minds. And it's so much easier if someone explains it to them in Portuguese or in Spanish. And someone that works maybe side by side with them. So I think those things are important. I don't know if I made my point.
Yeah, I'm laughing because I remember the day that someone explained those ideas to me, and the same I went, oh, that makes so much sense, and that's so important. And I've never forgotten. I just changed so fast. So I was laughing with you. Yeah. I want you to know that, and I'm asking this question, I didn't forget that we invited you to join this training with the idea that it was a first step, but I didn't want to presume. So I thought to say, well, what do you think to hear after we've had all this training? What would you like to do? So I hope that you want to continue and you would like to form some kind of a strategy to take this and multiply it out to Latin America. But it's not for me to say, we will do this and you will do this. So that's why it is an open question and an invitation to see what's in your heart after we've done all this training. So I'm excited at your ideas. Daniel has a sort of a general proposal of what if we formed a team and different ones of us focused on developing some expertise in a particular topic And then as we could approach different bases around Latin America and say, we are ready as a resource team to provide some training in different areas that are helpful for school leadership. Is that kind of a summary, Daniel, of what you're thinking? Yeah. And it sounds like, Tulio, you agree that would be helpful, and you would be the guy talking about outcomes. And somebody else is going to talk about spheres. I think Daniel might be talking about assessment. So, good. Any other thoughts come to mind? Any other ideas? I know some of you may think of your best idea 3 days from now, and that's good too. So this isn't the end of the conversation, but it was an important question to start talking about together. Anything else come to mind right this minute?
Eu posso falar, eu posso ir direto em relação à tradução? Gente, eu vou sempre perguntar porque para depois não dar confusão. Ou eu posso falar direto?
Pode falar direto que a Miriam está traduzindo.
Tá bom, obrigada. Eu estava aqui pensando, estava até conversando aqui com a Carlinha sobre algumas coisas, né? E acho que dentro das palavras que Deus tem me dado, uma coisa que tem ficado evidente para mim é esse envolvimento mesmo com a universidade, com estar cada vez mais aprendendo e colocando em prática, né? Tudo que eu tenho escutado e ouvido. Então, eu particularmente tenho interesse em me envolver mais com isso, tenho interesse em pensar como trazer tudo que a gente ouviu, esse treinamento para o Brasil e para onde mais, né? A gente tiver que ir. Mas também, me conhecendo, eu não sei se seria literalmente, como eu posso falar? Seria para caminhar perto, vamos dizer assim. Não sei se seria esse termo, mas eu quero saber mais aí e me envolver com isso. Então, acho que essa é uma fala que eu tenho para agora.
Could someone summarize what Miley said?
In my mind, you're on one of the channels and the girls are translating. She told she's available just to be part of a team. She thinks it's the next step. So she is understand from God that she is part of this next group. Wonderful. And she's available to give trainings and this kind of stuff.
Great, good. Okay. Well, why don't we, we're come to the end of our time on the clock, and it's been really helpful. Whoops, made you all disappear, sorry. It's been helpful to hear some of your thoughts about what we could do as a group, and your own, some of you saying, I'd like to be part of sort of whatever we do next. So I think we'll do two things. One is you keep thinking about it. And if you can share your personal thoughts and your personal, I'd like to be part of something like this, whatever you'd like to say about your own participation. Okay, so two things. If you have any more group ideas and whatever you'd like to say about your own availability and your own desire to participate, if you could send all of those to Carlina, and then we will have a meeting. Brad isn't with us this evening because he had some health situation and needed to take a few days to recover. And so he will gather together again, I don't know, next week or something, and bring together all of the reflections and observations and start putting together some ideas. And perhaps we'll meet again just for the sake of discussing some plans for the future. So we didn't want to take our whole group learning time to take a lot of time on that, because some might not want to continue on, but to discuss it a little bit when we're together, so we have an idea of generally we can hear each other, and then we can discuss it in more detail in the next couple of weeks or so. Okay, so I'm excited. I would love to continue to work with this network, and of course with these topics, and with you as people. So as we close, I just wanted to follow up on something else we said in the beginning. This is a registered U of N extension course, this staff training. And we haven't talked about that a lot since the beginning, but it is a course. And if you would like to receive credit for it, you can take the additional steps to receive U of N credit. That would mean making sure you've attended 15 out of the 18 sessions, which would be about 80% of the sessions. So you might need to make up a few sessions if you weren't able to attend. And it would mean turning in the assignments that were given. And perhaps there are several you'd want to make up. And then I will double check, but I believe it's a 2-credit course. And we'll double check the cost on that. It's either going to be 8 or 10 US dollars. So you can figure that out in your own currency. So if you would like to pursue receiving the formal credits for this course, then again, if you would let Carlina know, and then we'll work with you to get that, to get those for you. Okay. I know for some of you, it might have been, no, I just wanted to attend whatever meetings I could. But for some of you, that could be valuable. And so that's why we registered it. So it was a possibility for you. Okay. Great. Okay. Well, we were going to break off and pray for each other in pairs, but we've gone over our time already. So perhaps we could just close, and maybe a couple of us would like to just pray something out, and then I can close in a couple of minutes. And let's just seal this time that Holy Spirit help us remember and go forward, and then again to see what He might have for us next. Yes, Carlina, I thought to pray in prayers, but it's already 10 minutes past when we thought to stop. So I don't want to presume on everybody's time anymore. Does that seem right? I'm not hearing anybody, so I'm not sure if there's a comment on that.
I think Miriam just translated today and Claudia, so no one spoke anything.
Okay, good. I mean, we could follow, our plan had been to pray for each other in pairs, but we're 12 minutes past our time and I want to respect that. So should we just close in a group prayer? What do you think, Carlina?
If they pray, we can close, because the prayers maybe could be faster, because they are going to pray for one another and we can come back for the final prayer. But I think they can pray and we can just finish.
Okay.
They can just open their mic and pray.
Good. All right, so just a couple of us, not everybody has to pray, but a couple of you, if you'd like to pray out, and then maybe Carlina, you want to close us?
Yes, I can.
Yeah. Jesus. Oh, Jesus, I want to. Go ahead, Daniel.
Señor, te damos gracias por este tiempo de entrenamiento. Gracias por no solo el entrenamiento, sino por las relaciones también que construimos unos con otros, porque nos conocemos más, porque ya conocemos nuestros rostros. Cuando nos encontremos en las naciones podremos tener una amistad ya construida, Señor. Y eso también es, creo que, algo vital para continuar el crecimiento de la Universidad de las Naciones, las conexiones que podemos hacer entre unos y otros, la amistad, la fraternidad y el amor, Señor, la conexión entre bases, los puentes. Te pedimos, Señor, que de aquí no solo salga algo académico o algo, Señor, para el crecimiento de nuestras escuelas personalmente, sino algo que nos bendiga a todos como cuerpo, Señor, el poder ayudarnos, poder apoyarnos, Señor, unos a otros, Señor, aunque estemos en diferentes países. Y bueno, Señor, que se abran las puertas, Señor, de las naciones, Padre, a medida que avanzamos, Señor, en hacer más de los cursos de la universidad y más de nuestro corazón también lo que tú esperas que sea, Señor, y lo que has hablado desde un inicio. Ayúdanos, Señor, a recordarlos, Señor, tal cual como nos lo dieron, y danos también oportunidades para transmitirlo a otros, Señor, porque es muy valioso lo que ellos nos han dado. Bendice a Lisa, Señor, a Ana, Melinda, a Carliña, a Miriam, a todos los que han estado involucrados, a los chicos que han estado en la tecnología, a los que han traducido, Señor, bendícelos a cada uno de ellos, Señor, recompensales por su trabajo y permíteles también seguir teniendo oportunidades para compartir con otros, Señor, para llevar vida a otros, Señor, y que las escuelas puedan impartir vida y no solo conocimiento, Señor, en el nombre de Jesús.
Gracias, Espíritu Santo, porque eres tú quien has guiado cada una de las clases. Gracias por ser el director de nuestra Universidad de las Naciones. Queremos ser guiados cada día más contigo, Espíritu Santo, seguir tus pasos, poder tener nuestros oídos abiertos y dispuestos a escuchar el susurro de tu voz, tu dulce voz. Queremos, Señor, obedecerte. Queremos, Espíritu Santo, ser fieles a lo que hemos recibido para la multiplicación. Y te pido, Espíritu Santo, de que ese tesoro que queda en nuestro corazón podamos darlo a otros. También oramos, Señor, para que cada una de las ideas y cada una de las cosas que recibimos podamos bajarlas a nuestro corazón y que puedan echar raíces profundas y podamos transmitir, Señor, un ADN correcto de lo que es la Universidad de las Naciones, lo que es tu corazón, Señor, para nuestra universidad. Gracias porque sabemos que somos diferentes, pero aunque somos diferentes, sabemos que un aprendizaje a tu lado es mucho más fácil. Queremos disfrutar el aprender a tu lado, Espíritu Santo. Gracias por cada uno de estos maestros en cada una de las secciones que estuvieron con nosotros, porque cada uno de ellos fue clave para el crecimiento y el enriquecimiento, Señor, de saber en dónde estamos y hacia dónde vamos. Gracias, gracias Espíritu Santo, porque tú estuviste en cada una de estas reuniones y porque seguirás discipulando y enseñándonos cada día más en el nombre de Jesús.
Deus, nós te agradecemos pela tua fidelidade, pelo acesso que nós tivemos, Deus. Obrigada pela internet mesmo com tantos desafios. Obrigada pela Ana, pela Melinda, pela Lisa e a disposição delas de investirem na nossa região. Nós te damos graças e nós abençoamos a vida delas, em nome de Jesus. E a minha oração, Espírito Santo, é que você possa fazer o caminho de cada um de nós em relação à Universidade das Nações. Leva a gente para os lugares certos, faz a gente se conectar com as pessoas certas, faz a gente transbordar das revelações que a gente tem recebido do Senhor. E que a gente continue fazendo com que a Universidade das Nações seja a Universidade do Espírito, e a gente continue ouvindo, obedecendo e não desistindo de tornar essa universidade realidade em mais e mais lugares, com qualidade, com profundidade, com sabedoria, discernimento, ousadia, criatividade. Então, vem e se revela para cada um de nós, Pai. Em nome de Jesus. Amém.
All your pictures. Hold up your pictures.
You are mute before, Lisa. Oh. Segura seus desenhos, por favor.
Julio, where's your picture? Good. Okay. Karen, do you have one?
Driving. It would be dangerous. Draw as driving.
Well, Lord, you bless this revelation that is represented in all of these pictures, and let these images and these words that we've spoken, that we've seen, that we've created, Help them to go so deep in the heart and deep in the mind. Bring joy as they see these pictures again. Continue to take more and more revelation into who we are and into what we say and do. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, my dears. Hard to say goodbye. We won't say goodbye. We'll say see you soon.
Muchísimas gracias, que Dios les bendiga, en serio fue de grande bendición para nosotros. Te amamos, Liz.
Thank you, thank you. Tchau, tchau, gente. Vou tirar o canal e aí, Cláudia.
We will see one another soon, I'm sure.
Tchau, tchau. Deus abençoe.
Tchau.
Obrigada, gente.